Hi, and welcome. I'm Deborah, Executive Director of KnowledgeFlow, and we have from our team, we have Anika and Charlotte, our co-op students are with us today, and we're joined by David Garson, Managing Partner at Garson Immigration Law. Thanks so much for joining us today, David.
Pleasure. It's good to be
So
here.
here at KnowledgeFlow, we focus on helping people stay safe online. We, do education and training, and we like to say that we make people unhackable. We've recently partnered with a local victim services group out here to help create training materials for their staff, but then also prevention awareness materials. And they run a program through local high schools. So, through the course of our research, we've become very deeply aware of the issues surrounding human trafficking, whether it's for sexual exploitation, labor exploitation, or any of its, various forms. And most people in Canada don't even seem to be aware that it's happening. So we wanted to talk to you specifically in your role as immigration lawyer, get your perspective on how the folks who are trying to get into Canada, how are they being targeted by online crimes? How are the crimes related to human trafficking? How are they happening? What's being done about them, et cetera? There's a lot to talk about. So I'm going to turn it over to Charlotte and let's dive into some questions.
Sure.
Okay, so as an immigration lawyer, what have you encountered in terms of cyber crimes targeting people who are hoping to enter Canada and or newcomers? And is this really a big problem here and elsewhere?
It's a big problem everywhere, and I think it's a big problem for countries that welcome people or have an immigration reputation on a global scale. So, realistically speaking, what happens is if you are a person in a desperate situation, there's lots of people in desperate situations now, right? Whether it be in Afghanistan or whether it be in the Middle East or whether it be in Africa, and you want to get somewhere. And you can't really do it because you don't qualify, but then you have someone who says to you, listen, I can get you in, I have a way. So you're going to listen to that person. um, it's sort of like the too good to be true fantasy kind of thing. You go through everything you can, and then ultimately somebody tells you what you want to hear, and away you go.
So, why should the average Canadian care about this issue?
Well, because the average Canadian is concerned ostensibly about people that disobey the law, or in even a worse scenario, create situations where they're in danger. When you have individuals who are people smuggled here, or people who are here illegally, then that creates somewhat of an undercurrent to the society and an undercurrent to the immigration system as a whole. And it slows the system, and it creates a lot of financial issues for Canada, in the sense that we have to police this, we have to go after it. That's where your tax money goes, rather than doing for you what it's supposed to do, and that is like healthcare and getting your passport issued in a timely manner and things like that. So it creates crime, and whenever something creates crime, that's never good for you, for me, or for any Canadian.
Mhm.
What types of immigration scams do you typically see and how do they usually take place?
Um, Personally, I've had experience with it in the sense of scammers and fraudsters will steal my identity. They'll steal my name, and they'll get my picture off of my LinkedIn and things like that. And then they'll put it up, and they'll say on a fake website and a fake Instagram post, which they did, and say, here I am, and I'm here to help you. And then what happened is that they put it up, and I tried everything I could, and I couldn't get Instagram to take it down. We were able to take a lot of the websites down, and they kept putting it up, but in terms of that Instagram post, we couldn't get it down. I went to the police, and we opened an investigation, and he couldn't get them to take it down. And it just kept going on and on. And the thing is, what they do is they put information on the websites and on the Instagram. They put information that's relevant, and they put information that seems helpful. And so it looks like it's legitimate, right? And then they, they post fake questions and fake answers and the whole thing. And so there's nothing really wrong in terms of what they're posting in terms of the information. But then when people then correspond with them, they offer quote unquote solutions that don't make any sense. And I mean, I'm droning here, and I know you have other questions, but I'll tell you what, I'll save my examples. Go ahead.
What is the procedure for someone who is arriving to Canada with an approved visa only to find out that they've been victimized by an immigration scam?
I'm not sure that happens a lot of the time because, it takes a very sophisticated set of machinery and things of the sort. So I'll give you an example. Um, if you are not a Canadian citizen or you're not a US citizen or a US green card holder, then for a lot of countries, you need a visa to come to Canada. So, for instance, let's say you're from Pakistan or India, then you would need to get a visa from the consulate in your passport and an approval document if you're coming here to work or whatever. So it'd be real difficult for these fraudsters to do that. They get the pass and put the visa and everything. So a lot of people don't show up here with an approved visa. They show up here in the middle of the night, going over the Montana border or something like that. So they're not going to find that out.
So we know that not all immigration scams always result in human trafficking. In many cases, they're essentially financial fraud cases. How can an immigration scam become a human trafficking crime, and what can that look like?
Immigration fraud happens as we're speaking, it's happening 10 times in some way, shape, or form. It's $1 billion industry. So they'll take money and you lose your money and it's horrible. And then they go on to the next scam. It becomes human trafficking when when you meet with them and they say, fine, we'll do this, you pay them, then they bring you into Canada. And then when you're in Canada, then you owe them and you work for them and you never not work for them.
Mhm.
Realistically speaking, and you're scared because you think they're telling you, hey, you tell on us, they're going to arrest you and you're going to go to jail and all of this kind of thing, and so you end up basically in this cycle.
Would somebody who has been illegally trafficked into Canada face legal consequences, and can they apply for immigration status once they're already in Canada?
That's a good question. Canada has a wide swath of discretion they can utilize in these circumstances. They can charge someone, absolutely, under the criminal provisions of the Immigration Act or the enforcement provisions of the Immigration Act, or they don't have to. The person can, if they're here, depending on what they do, if they're not charged, they could make an application under humanitarian and compassionate grounds to stay, possibly. Or if they're in a profession or have skills that Canada needs, and an employer wants to sponsor them, they may be able to get a work permit. For the most part, they're probably allowed to leave Canada, realistically speaking. I don't think if you're trafficked in. Now, that being said, if Canada thinks that you were part of this, meaning you paid someone to smuggle you into Canada, understanding that they were smuggling you into Canada and everything that goes with that, then yeah, then you're going to face legal consequences.
And how can someone who has been trafficked into Canada obtain legal assistance and protection from their traffickers?
They would have to go to the police, realistically speaking, would have to report, or immigration, CBSA, Canada Border Services. They would have to approach the authorities. In terms of legal protection, you can go to a lawyer, but the lawyer is not going to protect you from someone that wants to come and grab you. So you're going to need sort of the power of the state, for lack of a better term, to assist you in that regard. And yeah, it is a double-edged sword, because by doing so, you're giving yourself up, and at the same time, it may be preferable to what got you here in the first place, though.
So, what are some red flags that people need to be aware of to prevent becoming a victim of these immigration-based or modern slavery crimes?
I think that the first thing you have to do is that, whenever an organization says that they can get you, they're an immigration organization, check them out. Don't believe everything they say. So Google whoever you're talking to and see if their information matches the information that you're talking to. Look at the address. If you're talking to someone, you want to do the research and make sure that the person you're talking to is actually the person you're talking to. And so realistically, you have to treat everything as if it is fraud until it isn't. And most importantly, word of mouth of people you know, not people on the web, not reviews. I'm somebody you know has used a professional. That's who you want to talk to, not someone you just look up online.
That makes sense. And if someone sees a sketchy social media post or an employment ad that they think might be a scam, what can they do about it?
Well, they report it to the provider, to the host, or if it's on Instagram or if it's on LinkedIn, you report it. Like, that's all you can do is report it. But it's frustrating as all get out, because a lot of times they do nothing.
Yeah, we've been telling people to use the hashtag not on my internet when they see stuff like that, because
Okay.
in a lot of cases, and regardless of the type of fraud, sometimes the platforms do take a long time to respond. So at least in the meantime, if somebody else sees it, they'll realize that it's probably sketchy, and at least it kind of identifies, a red flag to someone else.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, thank you, David. We really appreciate it. We're planning on spreading this information as far and wide as we possibly can. We want to try to help, not just current Canadians, but people who are hoping to become Canadian. We want to help
Right.
everyone, right, to be unhackable. So thank you very much. We really
Pleasure.
appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Have a good day.
You too.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.